Hey, welcome everybody to my live chat tonight with none other than Felix Blackwell. You guys may have heard his name pop up here and there regarding his viral sensation, Stolen Tongues. Welcome, Kim Crouch and Silent Evil Cry. I love that handle. That's awesome. So really appreciate having you guys here. And you might have noticed as well, something I did mention in the shout out is that we're going to be able to hear Felix throughout this, but however, due to some extenuating circumstances, he's not able to be on camera tonight. Something about being trapped in a cabin beneath a mountain. It's very cold. That he is currently trying to survive, so he doesn't want to give away his location lest we gather a band of heroes and try to locate and rescue him.
So it did happen. It happened with Stolen Tongues. There were people heading up Pikes Peak, and I had to call the ranger station and tell them, please don't. So
I hadn't even thought about that. That's fantastic. So
yeah.
I imagine that's a double-edged sword because it's like, hey, it's a great tourist destination now, but at the same time, maybe not the safest tourist destination for people.
Yeah.
So awesome. No, thank you very much for being here as well. So for those of you watching now, and of course watching this replay, we are going to be giving away a few books. So Felix is absolutely amazing. So he has offered up three digital copies, that is, of Church Beneath the Roots, which of course is his prequel to Stolen Tongues. And just as a heads up, in case you guys did miss the description and the shout out that I gave for the chat earlier, is that those that are lucky enough to win that, they're going to receive their copy on launch day. Because I understand that Felix is still going through some of the stuff with formatting, getting it absolutely 100% perfect. So if you were expecting to stay up all night long to read the prequel if you won the book, sorry to disappoint you. You're going to have to maybe read Stolen Tongues again or something. But if you win it, you will get it. You'll be one of the first to get it. So
it looks like, I think there are 3 people here. We might have 3 winners already.
Exactly. You never know. We could do a draw now. So I haven't done a draw before, so full disclosure. So if I screw it up, I'm going to blame, I don't know, Law of the Newbie or something.
That's fun.
Nice. So yeah, Lux Hippie reads, ready to stay up all night if I got it. You know what? You would stay up all night. So I was super lucky and blessed enough to be one of the beta readers, and it's a fantastic read. So yeah, you'll be kept all night by that.
Yeah.
So I figured that every 15 minutes or so, I'll space it out and I'll do a winners instead of doing a clean dump on that. So we'll kind of keep the stress going a little bit. So. And Felix, so thanks a lot for joining us way down deep in the mountains. So hopefully you're safe and sound down there.
Yeah, it's actually too warm in here. I'm thinking about cracking a window, but I don't know what's outside. So
exactly. If that is, assuming that you even find a window. So
yeah. Thank you
you're welcome. So Felix, I feel that it makes sense. I mean, a lot of people that I feel that are going to be and that are excited to be reading your prequel, Church Beneath the Roots, I feel probably have read Stolen Tongues, but for those that haven't read Stolen Tongues, maybe don't even understand or are aware of the origin story, I find like your origin story is fascinating all on its own as well, because from my understanding, it started off as sort of a stitched together scenes of creepiness that you posted on Reddit on their I think No Sleep section over there. Do you mind maybe talking a little bit about that before it became the novel that it became?
Yeah, sure. So gosh, I've told the story so many times I feel like sometimes I forget the details that are most interesting. I started off as a writer. I mean, I've been writing since I was a little kid, and I wrote a novel in 2008, from 2008 to 2014. It took a very long time. It was called In the Devil's Dreams. And when I released it, it got a few hundred sales over a couple of years, but nobody really knew who I was or paid attention to me, which was fine because I wrote that more as like an act of catharsis for myself coming out of a difficult personal situation. And the book speaks to that. But I kind of gave up writing when I went to graduate school because I was just so busy. And one day I threw a tantrum because my doctoral advisor had a big issue with some project that I did, and she decided that I had to redo it. Like I had to reorganize the whole structure of this project, and I was so pissed off. I went home and I for some reason I was just browsing Reddit. It was like an act of defiance. I should be working tonight, but I'm not going to work. I'm just going to browse Reddit. And I came across No Sleep, which is a subreddit there. It's like a forum. It's a role-playing horror forum, and the idea is you tell a scary story. It has to seem true. So probably not good if you're talking about being abducted by aliens and you're on their ship or something. It has to be slightly more believable than that. And then the readers are obligated to suspend disbelief, and they have to interact with you as though the story is true. So I just told a little story about my. She was not my wife at the time. She was my partner. Our relationship was pretty new, and she is a sleepwalker and a sleep talker. And at the beginning of our relationship, there were a couple of instances in which she said some really creepy things to me while she was sleeping in the middle of the night. One of them was like, she woke up. She didn't really wake up. She sat up in bed, still asleep, and said, "Felix, there's a huge snake under the bed. It's all coiled up in the the metal frame." And that scared the hell out of me because at the time I didn't even know she was sleep talking. I thought she was awake, so I was like, "Oh fuck." And then there was another occasion where she woke up and said, "Tell the man in the hallway he needs to leave." And there was nobody in the hallway, so I thought of it as like a ghost. So I started writing this short story on No Sleep about being in a cabin with her up in the Colorado Rockies, which is actually where I grew up. And the premise was simple. It's like this couple goes to this cabin and they hear some creepy noises outside, and the characters are based on me and my partner. And then I just, there was nothing special about that first entry. I just submitted it and it blew up. It just talked about, hearing noises outside and hearing voices that we recognize, but they can't possibly be the people we think they are. Like my mother is not walking around in 0-degree weather up in the mountains. And then I had this idea after it blew up and people just loved the story. I was like, what if she starts sleep talking? What if Faye starts sleep talking and someone outside starts talking back to her? And that was sort of the genesis of The Imposter, which has since become a pretty popular modern horror monster. Sure. So I just, went from there. I also based it on a parrot. I had a friend who had a really creepy parrot, and I also, my spouse worked at a zoo where there was a parrot that was pretty creepy too at night. So I kind of worked that in there. The imposter is a giant parrot, and he doesn't quite understand what he's doing when he mimics people. He just does it because that's what he sees. So people really like that uncanny valley stuff. So that's where the story came from. I had no idea that it would blow up as hard as it. I mean, you have to understand, I sold like 120 copies of In the Devil's Dreams, and Stolen Tongues, just as a short story free on the internet, was getting me tens of thousands of visits to my website, and hundreds and hundreds of emails. Like I couldn't keep up after a couple of days. Thousands of Reddit comments, up like 50,000 upvotes. I'm just fucking crazy statistics. Sorry.
Insane. Everybody loves Carrot the Parrot.
Yeah, she's probably the best part of the story. So the Reddit, the No Sleep readers requested that I publish the book. I just copy paste the story into a book, and I said I don't really have the time or the money to do that because I'm in school. And so they suggested that I crowdfund it, and they said we will fund this project for you. So I did it, and I didn't hire an editor, and I really just kind of copy pasted the story with some minor edits and expansions. I wrote a new intro for it, which is Carrot the Parrot, and the book just had legs from day one.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. I did nothing to market it. And I get emails every week from new writers. How do you market your books? How do you get such crazy numbers? It's about to cross 10,000 reviews on Amazon. And I always tell them, like, I'm the last person in the world to answer that question because
Gotta have a parrot.
it's just dumb luck, and there are so many writers all over books of horror and all over the internet who are factually better writers than me, from a technical perspective. There's just like Nick Roberts and John Durgan and all these guys, CF Page. They're better writers than me. They're more literary. So yeah, that's the origin of Stolen Tongues.
Cool. That's a good origin. Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. I've already answered your question.
No, I mean, the story absolutely fascinates me, and I think that you really touched on something that I think is probably very well echoed from your readers as well, who read this thing. And I know, speaking for myself at least, you can't really put a finger on exactly what it is that makes it so freaking creepy and so insidious in a way. Like, it just has a way of getting underneath your skin, and I think it's one of those just natural storytelling abilities, maybe, that it's just either something you have or something you work on and hope you get close at some point. And that's one of the questions I want to ask you as well, or maybe touch on at least, Felix, is that when this came out, and certainly as a few other folks are mentioning, such as Amanda, that it absolutely blew up in the Books of Horror community group on Facebook. And if you guys are watching this and you haven't heard of Books of Horror, you got to go and check them out. I think they've gone from like 2,000 members a couple of years ago to just over 40,000 now. Awesome, super supportive group. But your book absolutely blew up there. But for as much as it blew up, and as much as it resonated with people, kept us up all night for all the right reasons, a lot of people bashed the crap out of it as well regarding the ending and some other aspects of it. And I understand that really drove you to at least not maybe necessarily writing the prequel to it. We'll touch on that in a second. But what was your reaction to that as far as taking what that polarizing reaction was from Stolen Tongues, and how did you use that to fuel you into the prequel?
Yeah, that's a great topic of conversation. So it's the criticism of Stolen Tongues is really frustrating to me personally because it was never meant to be a book. People say it has no character development, and they say the plot barely makes any sense, and there's plot holes, and they say the ending sucks, and it's like it feels like it should be a short story, and it's like, yeah, all those things are true. It was just a short story. It was never meant for public consumption. This is not an example of my finest writing. And compare that to In the Devil's Dreams, which is like this extremely overplanned, extraordinarily carefully crafted novel that I wrote with unreliable narrators and multiple perspectives and very interesting tie-ins. Nobody analyzes the book that I wanted to be analyzed. They analyze the story that was never meant to be a book. So I really appreciate all the attention that it gets, even the bad attention,
100%.
because it helps me grow as a writer. But at the same time, it's just like, man, I never meant for any of this to happen. Like, Stolen Tongues is not the book that I wanted to be famous for. When I wrote In the Devil's Dreams, I thought, like, this is it. This is my magnum opus. I wish I was known better for that book, because it's like intended to help people out of bad personal circumstances, I guess. So The Church Beneath the Roots was born out of the criticisms of Stolen Tongues. Some people didn't like the lack of character development. They didn't like the anticlimactic ending. I thought it was understated. They didn't like the native representation. So Church Beneath the Roots is really the answer to all of those criticisms. And I gave them exactly what they wanted. So now this book will be controversial, just like Stolen Tongues, but in the opposite direction, because the people who love Stolen Tongues will say, like, well, this isn't as creepy, and it's longer, and it's got it's too much character development or whatever, but the critics will be like, yeah, this is the book you should have written. So now I've written something for everyone, and everyone can leave me alone. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
as long as you're writing and working on the next book, so we'll leave you alone for a minute.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say then, so did you end up writing Church Beneath the Roots as a result of those mixed opinions, or is that a book that, regardless of success or reader feedback, that you were always going to write?
Yeah, so I like that question. I have been told thousands of times to write a sequel to Stolen Tongues, and I always said no. I always said I would never ever write a sequel to it. That project is over. It was a one-off, and I think it was in 2019. So Stolen Tongues came out in 2016 as a story. It was published in 2017 as a novel. 2 years later, I started writing a new series of short stories for No Sleep, and I was just like crafting them in my bedroom. They never saw the light of day, but it was like 10 or 12 stories about. Well, I don't want to say what they're about because it's like the opening chapter of Church Beneath the Roots. But I wrote all those, never released them just because life got really busy. I changed careers. I moved to a different part of the state. And then one morning, I received an email from a fan saying, "Hey, are you ever going to write a sequel to Stolen Tongues?" And I replied what I always said. I said, "No, it's never going to happen. I'm working on other stuff now." And then I went on a jog, like right after that email. It was like 7 a.m. I went outside. I was go on a jog every morning, and on this jog, I'm hoofing it up this really steep hill, and it hits me all of a sudden. The entire plot of The Church Beneath the Roots, it tied in all 12 of those short stories I was writing. It tied in Stolen Tongues, and it was a prequel, not a sequel. It was like everything that happened before Felix and Faye got to the cabin. And even before Tom and Jennifer built the cabin. So it was about the mountain itself. And I rushed home. I think I cut that jog short. And I just like started furiously writing all of the, to answer your question, the story was naturally a response to all that criticism. Like everything made sense. Why wasn't there character development? Why didn't the monster do that? Why did the monster just give up instead of killing Faye when it realized it couldn't get what it wanted? And I knew I had something really special, so that was how it started. I wrote 200 pages of notes, which I've never done before, and then I took 2 years to write the manuscript and just finished it in December. So everything from December onward has been like beta readers and formatting and stuff. I really appreciate this comment, by the way. It means a lot to me. Thank you, Dave.
I know that's pretty awesome to get somebody back into reading horror through a story. That's pretty incredible, Daphne.
It's crazy. I've gotten emails from people about how my writing has affected them personally, and it's unbelievable. Like it's so rewarding to hear that it helped somebody get out of a difficult time or got somebody back into reading. One reader once told me that they had been struggling to get their like teenager into reading, and Stolen Tongues was the book that got them into reading, and that's like the highest praise a writer can get.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah, so it means a lot to me, and it does affect me. I appreciate all the comments.
You bet. Yeah, whether you sell 125 copies or 125,000 copies, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I always said when I wrote In the Devil's Dreams, people would ask me like, "Do you want it to be a bestseller?" And I said this, and I also felt it honestly, that I don't care how much it sells. If I just get one message from one person who tells me that it helped them in some meaningful way, that it will have been worth the years that I spent on that project. And I got that email a couple months after I published In the Devil's Dreams. Some guy from Scotland emailed me and said that his wife had passed away, and that In the Devil's Dreams helped him get through that. And that's when I knew I was a real writer. It was that moment, not when I hit the best-selling charts on Amazon.
No, but that's fantastic to hear you say that. And I know, speaking of the reactions to the stories, when it came to your beta readers as well, Felix, that you put out to a handful of folks. Thank you very much for trusting me to be one of them as well. Uh, what did you find was the common feedback? And if I can piggyback kind of on my own question, what I'm really curious, even more so than some of the feedback, and if there was some of it that was a commonality with all the beta readers, was there any surprises to you on how those first batch of readers took the story, digested it, and processed it, and reacted to it?
Yeah, interesting story. So a little background on me: I'm an extremely high-strung person. Uh, I definitely have some kind of anxiety disorder. I do not handle life well, almost at all, and I'm always trying to prevent myself. I'm fighting with myself not to like delete my Felix Blackwell Facebook page and just never write again. Like I'm just very sensitive about my writing. Um, this book had so much writing on it because Stolen Tongues is how I came into the public eye.
Sure.
And so I knew that the prequel, The Church Beneath the Roots, was super high stakes. And when I finished, I mean, I agonized over writing this thing. It was like building a rocket ship. And when it was done, I selected something like 12 or 13 beta readers. You were one of them. And I fired it off one night to everybody. And then there was like 5 or 6 days where nobody got back to me. And I was freaking the fuck out. I was like, my best friend to whom I dedicated this book, he was saying, "Man, you gotta relax. Like, give him time to chew on it and everything." And I was telling him like, it's going over like a Led Zeppelin. Nobody's gonna like this book. It's a nightmare. And my wife actually was like talking to me mid panic attack, sitting in the bedroom, and she was trying to talk me down. I was just freaking out. And the first beta response came in. I got the notification on my email. On my phone. It was an email, and this woman just fucking hated it. She just thought it was such a disappointment. She said, she's like one of my biggest Stolen Tongues fans. Just loves that book. And she said this book is like nothing like Stolen Tongues. She didn't like any of it. And she even, beta readers are supposed to provide pretty incisive and expansive feedback, and she did. And it ripped me apart. It was so painful to read this. Like I just felt like that email suggested that I had disappointed, 50,000 people all in that night. So I was really down in the dumps. I didn't sleep that night. And the next day I got like 2 or 3 excellent reactions from people.
Good.
And then the rest of them, the vast majority of them were really positive. A couple of them were kind of middling. And then 1 or 2 of them were negative. And the commonalities that threaded them all were people were very surprised that this is a literary historical horror novel. It is not a short page-turning thriller novel. Stolen Tongues is first person, and you can read it in one sitting. It's like 270 pages or something, or you could read it on a weekend. This book has way more nuance, and it's 50 pages longer. It's got a much bigger cast of characters. It takes place across the entire mountain, Pale Peak, and on the Indian reservation, the Cold Valley Indian Reservation, from which T-Way and Nathan in Stolen Tongues are, they come from. And it's told in third person, which I think I just mentioned, but also I had a lot of personal goals trying to express my growth as a writer in this project. And so one of them, the rule was the horror must be derived from the character drama. So in Stolen Tongues, you take 2 people and you stick them in a cabin and they just hear a bunch of creepy things.
Right.
Some of the horror is derived from Faye's, PTSD from losing her brother. But the vast majority of that creepy stuff could happen to anybody. But in this book, the scary stuff only happens because of the way that the characters develop, and it forces them to develop further. So it's just a much more complicated read, and most people seemed to love it. I did recruit some people that hated Stolen Tongues into the beta reading group, and they reacted most positively to it. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah, 100%. And, I guess I really shouldn't be too surprised that there were a few folks that maybe hated it because they needed the prequel to be just like Stolen Tongues.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, the way that I look at it as a real simplistic comparison, at least for me, is that I found with Stolen Tongues, I couldn't read it fast enough. Whereas with The Church Beneath the Roots, I didn't want it to end. And I was okay not having to burn through every page because it was on fire with this incredible tension. A lot of the times it was really just sort of a sense of wonder and a sense of figuring out these people's, ways and all the other mixed natives that were in the village, and just trying to figure out their story that was so fascinating. And like you said, from what they did and how they try to survive naturally, and then of course the supernatural elements in there, that's really where the two combined just made for some. I found a really elevated terror compared to the Stolen Tongues. Maybe not so much the exhausting, creepy factor, but definitely outright terror. I found was tenfold in in the church. Yeah, and the ending, I found everything just built up. I still think it's probably the most terrifying visuals that I've had reading a book that I can remember. So I think you absolutely nailed it in that regard.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's Nick Roberts made a really interesting observation. He said, "The Church Beneath the Roots is to." How did he say it? I'm going to horribly misquote him right now. He said that the difference between Stolen Tongues and Church Beneath the Roots is the difference between The Shining and Doctor Sleep. So I don't know if you've read Doctor Sleep, but it's more expansive. It has just more going on. Less immediate in-your-face horror, but more like payoff at the end, I think. So yeah.
Comparison.
Lindsay Smith is here. She was my editor, and Lindsay was fantastic with taking my raw story and helping me like tighten it up a lot. She made three really big recommendations that took a lot of work to implement. But I think the story is like 20% better because of those recommendations. So thank you, Lindsay. You're amazing. If I haven't told you that already.
Yeah, she really puts the work in for sure. I was lucky enough to have her on a previous podcast, and just the attention to detail that she has for every single story, not just it's second to none from what I've seen. So
she's got a very keen mind. It's the incisive commentary that she offered me is of the sort that you don't get very often from almost anybody. I really appreciated her. And somebody else said in the comments here that they don't need it to be the same as Stolen Tongues. They need answers. And I promise you're going to get so many answers in this book. But I think what I like about it is that the answers are kind of understated. They're not really spoon-fed to you. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that the imposter is not the main antagonist of this book. He's like a side character that makes important interjections in the story, but the horror is so much bigger than him. So it's going to take you places that you might not expect.
Yeah, and it definitely did for me. Felix, I want to touch on, some of the balance that you had to do regarding the creepiness and the wide arcing story that is definitely much different than Stolen Tongues.
Mm-hmm.
However, before I do that, though, I thought maybe we could spice it up a little bit, and I can see if this little random pinwheel that I have over here might actually work to help people to win a copy of your book when it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking if people put in #church, I will be able to run a draw based off of that. So #church. So I'm going to give people a chance to put that hashtag in for those that want to do that while my wheel is spinning here. And maybe while we're giving people a chance to do that, Felix, maybe we can touch on that after all. So what did you find, or how did you find such a balance with that, rather than just the all exhaustive creepiness that was, amazing in Stolen Tongues? but also couple that with more of a wide arching story that involved more of the characters rather than the atmosphere from Church Beneath the Roots. How did you find a balance with that?
Oh, that's a great question. It was really difficult because with Stolen, I try to have like a goal with each writing project. When I start out, I'm very much a plotter, not a pantser.
Yeah.
And a situation, I like that. I would love to visit Alaska. My wife and I are talking about taking a cruise up there really soon. But yeah, so when I wrote Stolen Tongues, my only goal was to answer the question to myself, is it possible for me as a horror writer to frighten modern audiences? I mean, everybody in this chat and everybody who's read Stolen Tongues, they have seen horror movies where people get their limbs sawed off with chainsaws, and they've seen movies where the planet is blown up by aliens or a comet or something. It's really hard to frighten people who have seen it all, right? And so what I did was just like I wrote with Stolen Tongues a series of the creepiest, understated horror scenes that I could. And that's what the book was. The book is just chapter upon chapter of creepy scenes. There's not really much else going on. There's not a ton. I mean, there's a little bit of character arc, but not that much. With Church Beneath the Roots, I started off with, so the book is about a boy who has gone missing from the Cold Valley Indian Reservation. And it follows Onwe Lopez, who is the father of T-Way. So you're going to get to see T-Way Lopez when he's a little kid. And, what happened to him and Angela and Nathan and all that. So I had all these character bios that I wrote out and the important narrative character arcs that I wanted them to hit, all the plot points. And then I ended up, I had like a drama. Here's my drama novel. And now I have to bring in the imposter and the monster and, all the scary stuff on the mountain. It's history. So I ended up doing what I did with Stolen Tongues. I wrote out a whole bunch of creepy scenes and tried to weave them in. And then I found that doesn't work when you're writing like a more, dare I say, literary character drama novel. Right. I found that the horror had to be derived from the character drama. So I started thinking like this fight between these two characters, how can this get scary? Or like this hike that this guy has to take to go look for the missing boy, how can this get frightening, right? So the horror scenes are a lot more natural and a lot more plot relevant than they were in Stolen Tongues. But it was difficult to strike that balance.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, you definitely did. You struck it down quite nicely. So it was almost like the creepiness factor was very slow burning. Kind of like I found Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I found a similar sort of vibe where it all just sort of slowly goes and picks up steam, almost you might say like a snowball.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm like super afraid that readers are going to find the first 100 pages boring. Whereas like with Stolen Tongues, it was so great up front and then it like really gets weak towards the end. This book is the opposite, where like it starts off kind of slow. I think that prologue is almost as good as the Stolen Tongues prologue, but
absolutely.
Then there's a lot of world building and character drama and stuff for about 100 pages. And then the really crazy shit hits the fan. And the rest of the book is just like flying by the seat of your pants. Although I did get some feedback from some readers saying that some chapters needed to be tightened up, and you were one of the people who recommended that.
Sure.
And so I went in and cut like 30% of that more boring stuff. Try to make it tighter. So I hope I've satisfied your expectations and addressed your feedback.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and again, I feel honored to be able to have provided some of it. But definitely with this one, I mean, the nice thing about the prequel of Church is that it certainly does let you catch your breath from time to time, but then you think you're safe and you're not. You're like, okay, I guess this is the drama section of the book, and then before you know it ratchets it back up again, and you're looking over the
shoulder. There's 2 chapters in this book that are going to be extremely traumatic for readers, and a lot of people are going to be angry at me. My wife is super mad at me for this one scene in the book. She brings it up all the time. She's like furious that I did what I did, in a good way.
I wonder which one. I mean, there's a few of them where I thought, I no, you're not going. Nope. Yep, he went there.
Yeah.
So on that note, I'm going to hit the draw button here as well. So thanks to everybody. I think you guys all have your hashtags in. So I'm going to do the draw. And I'm sure there's a way that I can actually share the screen here as well, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm afraid of doing that and completely mucking it up. So I'm not going to do that. So you guys are just going to have to trust me here. So I'm hitting draw. All right. There we go. Awesome. And Stacy Rowe, you are the winner of the first copy of the prequel to Stolen Tongues, Church Beneath the Roots. So awesome job. Congratulations.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, so that is wicked. So you're in for a treat, Stacy. And just so you know, as I'm not sure if you were here when Felix mentioned earlier. So once the prequel launches, that's when Felix is going to blast out the copy to you as well. So you'll be able to have that in your mailbox at some point in the not so distant future as well. And I know too, Felix, in developing the cultures, I'm really been excited to talk to you about this because, and I know you mentioned regarding the native culture aspect of the book as well. And I understand that you're a history teacher and you've certainly done a lot of studies yourself on native culture. What was the importance for you in getting it, getting that aspect of this novel right personally, as well as the importance of getting it right for the story?
Yeah. So I studied history in my undergraduate years, and initially I wanted to be a European history teacher, but I went on to do my master's in American history for a couple of different reasons. But when I was doing American history, I was focusing on religion. I was really interested in like the secret atheists and the deists of the early United States. The atheists that walked among the Pilgrims and the Puritans and the early radical Protestant Christian churches that had settled North America. And when you're studying that material, you always encounter, you come across documentation of their interactions. When I say they, I'm talking about like white European colonists, their interactions with Native Americans. And I was surprised by a lot of what I learned. You learn one story in high school about natives. It's indigenous people in North America. It's kind of like a whitewashed version of what really went down. When you get in college, you hear the bad parts, and then when you get into grad school, you hear the really complicated parts. So I really wanted to write a book where I sort of just talked about my interest in native cultures. And I did that through horror because I'm a horror fan. I suppose I could have written like a really dry history treatise on it, but that's not what I wanted to do. Public education is more interesting if it's bound up in some genre like horror or something.
Absolutely.
Plus, fiction writing is just more interesting in my opinion now. So yeah, this book especially, I mean, Stolen Tongues too, but this book is especially surprising to some readers, some of my friends and family. The natives are complicated. For example, in real life, there's a book called Crow Jesus by Mark Clatterbuck, and he is a specialist of indigenous histories and religion. The United States government tried to Christianize Native Americans in the late 1800s into the early 1900s. And some of the Native Americans did Christianize. And nobody ever talks about these people because in our public discourse, when we talk about Native Americans, we talk about preserving their traditional cultures. We never hear from the Christian Native Americans. And so they're very interesting people, and they're hardly ever talked about at all. There are a few experts on their traditions. And so The Church Beneath the Roots is the title and the book are references to this cultural clash that's going on in the book in Colorado, in my book, in Colorado, between the traditionalists on this reservation and those that are converting to Christianity. And Anwe Lopez, the main character, is sort of trapped in the center of it. He's a traditionalist. He's watching all of his friends and family slowly convert to Christianity. They're being led by white missionaries and white pastors, and this brings up a lot of cultural complexity for them. Some people have reacted negatively to this because some people's ideas of social justice is like, you should only write Native Americans who are traditionalists, or like you have to cast the new religion in a negative light. And I try not to do that. I really try to give like an honest take of what really happened, but I did it in a fictionalized setting with fictionalized tribes. And by the way, I like to tell this story. I received an email one time from a person who was very angry with me that I had misrepresented his people. He identified himself as an Ineho, a member of the Ineho tribe. So this person not only didn't read Stolen Tongues, but was lying about the fact that he was Ineho, because that is a native tribe that does not exist. They're my creation. So there's a lot of like hot tempers about how natives should be portrayed in fiction. Some people think that you should never ever write about them at all if you yourself are not native. Some people think that you should. The opposite end of the spectrum is like, just write whatever you want. Writers can create their own worlds. You should have the creative license to do what you want, and fuck your feelings. That kind of attitude.
Right.
I'm somewhere in the middle where like I really try to get the research right. I consulted with Indigenous people themselves, a couple of Indigenous authors also. One of my buddies is a member of the Tongva tribe here in California.
Okay.
And then I also worked with but consulted a couple of Indigenous scholars who are themselves white Americans, Mark Clatterbug being one of them. I have been told over the course of my writing that you didn't do it right. You didn't portray them right. And I've read the reviews of Stolen Tongues, and I've read the feedback. And everybody has a different idea of what representation means. A lot of people, sorry about any spoilers, folks who have not read Stolen Tongues, but some native characters die in Stolen Tongues, and some people really have a problem with that. And I hear them, and I understand why they feel that way. It's not confusing to me why people feel that those characters should not have died.
Sure.
But on the other hand, my view of social justice in literature is that Native people and people of color and people of minority status should not be handled in a way that separates them from the majority. I think that it would be dishonest of me to write monsters that only killed members of one race or one religion or something like that. So in Church Beneath the Roots, in Stolen Tongues, and especially in Church Beneath the Roots, how do I say this without giving out spoilers? The monster does not give a flying fuck what your skin color is or what your religion is, because the monster views humans as prey. So I tried to work in the horror angle of the monster being very egalitarian in who he murders, and also my own personal convictions about race and religion and the portrayal of people of minority status. I really try to give them all a fair shake. So I myself am an atheist, and I thought that I wrote the Christian characters particularly well. I thought I was very fair to them, and a lot of people expected that I would write them terribly. So
no, I thought you did an admirable job with it, and very believable. And the nice thing is that you didn't tend to pigeonhole anybody, even those that were of certain belief systems or in certain, I guess, levels of compliance, if you will, between the relationship that their village had with their government. I thought that even within that setting, you still had some of the natives, as well as Christians and the agencies, the FBI people that eventually come in. They're very complicated people as well. So I think it even went well beyond the culture and the fact that it doesn't really matter what our culture is. We're still complicated people, and we can still have a lot of the same problems and a lot of unique problems. And I thought you captured that really well in there, that you didn't use any aspect of the culture as a crutch for them, but rather something additional that they were trying to protect as well as struggle with, and try to find out how they fit into the real world. And I thought you put all that across quite nicely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One thing I learned that I never forgot from my graduate studies was the concept of complication, where you like take a subject and you complicate it by breaking it up into little pieces and making the pieces fight with each other, on a factual basis, or in fiction, characters are arguing. Well, in Church Beneath the Roots, I tried to write about like culture in transition. You know, there is no such thing as one native culture, not even on the reservation. All the characters have different opinions of what their traditions are and what their culture should be. And the Christians also disagree with each other on how natives should be Christianized. And they disagree on what is Christ-like and what is godly. And this is a reflection of real life.
Mhm.
There are Protestants and there are Catholics, but there are many kinds of Catholics. There are three popes. The Coptic Pope, the Russian Pope, the Roman Catholic Pope. Among Protestants, there are 1,000 different subdivisions, different sects that all disagree with each other on little nuanced things about biblical interpretation, and that's true in my book too. There are no people who are all good or all bad, all evil or all benevolent, and I like that about the book. But ultimately, everybody here is going to be the judge, not me. It is a little bit more cerebral than Stolen Tongues. It's not
Mhm.
as easy of a read, but I think the payoff is a lot better.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the payoff, like I said before, I really can't speak highly enough about it, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about that because I'm bound to just get in my little teleportation device, go right back to that specific scene where shit hits the fan, and I don't want to reveal too much because like you said, the payoff is absolutely worth it to get there, and the journey to get there isn't half bad either.
Yeah. I can say that everybody who was disappointed with the ending of Stolen Tongues is going to be very happy with the ending of The Church Beneath the Roots, I think. So,
I audibly, I don't do this often. I yelped out loud for you. I'm like, fuck yeah, you got it. I'm like, take that, suckers, if you don't like the ending of Stolen Tongues.
yeah, I tried to land the plane a little better. So.
You did. And speaking of landing the plane, I guess too, because I know you've got to shutter up here in a little bit, Felix. Again, really appreciate your time, and everybody who's decided to hop in there. You guys are all amazing, so thank you so much for doing that as well. So you guys are all appreciated. As a matter of fact, I'm going to throw out another hashtag for another book as well. Before I want to talk to you a little bit more about your decision to self-publish the prequel, despite the success that you had from, or maybe in spite of the success that you had from Stolen Tongues, and why you went that route. Before I do that, though, I think the hashtag I'm going to go with here is we'll plug in hashtag roots. So ROOTS. Just like in the title. So
this is for the second winner of the
yeah, this is for the second winner. So if you guys want to enter in comments, yeah, just like that. Awesome. So I will give that a few minutes to kind of roll out. And while that's happening, Felix, if I could maybe jump back to the question as far as your decision-making process to take this thing, go the self-publish route, which I think is super admirable. But why do that when you could likely pick up the attention of any publisher that's probably thinking, man, I wish we had a chance to get him.
Yeah, I'll give you a really honest answer to that question.
Sure.
I don't have a nice way to say this. So I begged traditional publishing houses to take In the Devil's Dreams, and none of them wanted it. I bought this book that teaches you how to query, traditional publishers and agents and all this. Nobody wanted. I think I sent out 100 emails, and I got one response. I got a bunch of people declining. I got one person interested in reading it. Never got back to me after that.
Of course.
With Stolen Tongues, I couldn't take the heartbreak. So, and also I didn't want to go through the editing process. I had a deadline because we kickstarted it or crowdfunded it or whatever.
Yeah.
but it blew up so hard that it proved to me that you don't, sorry to say this, Lindsay, you don't need an editor to write a best-selling novel. You don't even really need to write a novel. You just need, in horror, you just need a story that people find scary. Everything else is somewhat irrelevant, So with Church Beneath the Roots, I hemmed and hawed over whether I should bring in a traditional publisher, because now I'm a much bigger name in the space, and most of these publishers, if I went to them, they probably would take me. But here's the honest part. I'm a huge control freak. I have a lot of negative personality traits, and one of them is that I just don't play well with others at all. And my band will affirm this, that I have to have total control over my personal projects. The album cover has to look a certain way. The music has to be exactly a certain way. The book cover has to be a certain way. Lindsay, who I think is still here, will tell you that I rejected more of her revision recommendations than any of her other clients. And she said I freaked her out when she went in and did the line and copy edit, and I rejected 40% of her recommendations. But that's just kind of how I am. I'm also terrible as a passenger in a car. I have to drive it. I'm terrible on planes. If I could fly the plane, I would.
I was going to say, how many planes have you flown because of that?
Yeah, I feel like it. But I'm more than happy to take the back seat and let someone else lead me in a romantic relationship. But aside from that, I can't share. So these traditional publishers, they want to tell you what you can have on the cover, and they want to tell you, what color or what kind of font the text can be in the book, and where to market it, and how to price it, and how much royalties they're going to take. And it's a big no for me. I'll do it myself. Which, by the way, is why I announced Church Beneath the Roots in February and still haven't put it out yet. I'm literally working on formatting the book every single day. And every time a new proof copy arrives at my house, I find a new issue with it. And so I have to go back to my artist and say, can you fix this? Or go back to my formatting guy and say, can you adjust this? And I think this one that I'm ordering tomorrow is the final one. I think I'm ready to release this book. So,
well, hopefully that's the key you need to unlock the windowless room and that you're in, so that you can escape from beneath the mountain where you are currently.
Yeah.
So here's open for that. So cool. So I will. No, I appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the draw button. I think we've got all of the roots in. Yeah, happy book launch anniversary there, Nick. All right, so hit that, and it's spinning through the wheel, and our winner is slowing down to reveal. Winner in the woods. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So that is awesome. And I probably should record this, so I'm just counting on the fact that you guys are all super trusting, and I'm not just closing my eyes and sticking my finger on the screen here and saying, yeah, that one will do. I am actually doing a draw, and I promise if I do these live chats again, which I hope to do, I will figure that out. So the trust does not have to be a factor. I might not have a trusting face, so I don't know if I need to push it. But yeah, congratulations in the woods. That's awesome. So again, once the book launches, which it sounds like it's going to be pretty soon, that's going to get blasted off into your inbox. So you get to be one of the first people to enjoy it. So
yeah, congratulations for that. And if you don't mind, just send Rick your name and email address. Is that okay, Rick? Maybe you can send me there.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's actually important information to have.
Yeah, and then I'll contact you directly, winners, with the ebook as soon as it's ready.
Yeah, perfect. And you guys could either send it to me through an email. It's not a secret. My email is. It's everywhere. It's just hipson.rick@gmail.com. Or if you're on Facebook, you can fire off a message on Facebook. And pretty easy to reach that way. Speaking of being a control freak as well, one of the things I did want to kind of talk to you about as well, and you sort of alluded to it earlier, Felix, is regarding the cover. And I understand for this prequel, you've got two covers. Can you explain that? Was it a matter of you couldn't pick between the two, so you just thought, what the hell, let's find two versions to put them on, or how did
Yeah.
that work out?
Can I email them to you? Maybe you can share your screen, or
Yeah, sure, I can absolutely try that. Or you know what, I might have, yeah, if you can email them, that'd be great, and then I'll try to share them here.
let me see if I can get those over to you really quick. I should have done this before.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, so let's see here. All right,
I appreciate that, because they are both absolutely freaking gorgeous, and hopefully we'll be able to make that work. So
oh, I'm so excited for these covers. I've never been so happy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sent.
And is there, sorry, I might be getting ahead of myself here, but while I'm waiting for those to come through, is there going to be, I think you mentioned as well, an audio version of this?
Yes, yeah. Tantor Media owns my soul, and they're gonna make an audiobook. I did receive feedback from a lot of readers that they didn't like the narrator for Stolen Tongues, and so I have passed that on to Tantor Media, my contact there, and just said like, hey, maybe we could pick somebody else. So hopefully they make the right choice.
Yeah, and you wouldn't consider doing that yourself? I mean, I haven't listened to the audio version of Stolen Tongues, but I've listened to some of your Cold People and other stories, so I can't remember the exact title, so please correct me on that. But you did some of the narration yourself on YouTube, and they were just fantastic. Like, you had a great narrator voice.
I appreciate that, but yeah, I tried. I offered Tantor Media. I even I said, hey, I will do it for you for cheaper than whoever you hire. I'll sweeten the deal. And they told me no, they didn't like my voice. I think I have kind of a sleepy voice, and they want people to be scared. So
yeah, I guess how do you? Yeah, there's always so much you can do with your voice, I suppose.
Yeah, there's the person who does this one is going to be really challenged because there's so many characters. There's a monster, maybe even more than one monster. I don't know. So pretty tough. I see Gage Greenwood and Nick Roberts in here too. It seems like they'll let just about anybody in here, huh?
You know what? I tried to put up a few guards, but clearly I didn't.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm gonna fire my golems.
I always say Gage Greenwood is the only person I would be excited to sit next to on an airplane.
And why is that?
I don't know. He's so friendly.
That goes a long way, but at the same time, maybe that's just me, or maybe it's because I'm damaged from having read some of your stories, that I find that if it seems like it's too good to be true and it's a little bit more on the too positive side, that's when I start to get really afraid.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, this plane's going down. What aren't you telling me that you know?
Well, I'm sorry. What am I telling you with the plane?
No, I would be worried that if somebody's too cheerful, I would be kind of wondering what they're not telling me.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, there are certain situations in which friendliness can be extremely creepy, right?
Yes.
But on a plane, I appreciate it because I'm such a terrible flyer. I'm absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm not as bad as I thought it would be, but it's all different. I think the first flight I took, I watched Skyfall.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I can't. I just can't. I could tell a lot of stories about my freakouts on planes, but did those images get through?
They did, and I'm currently trying to put them through right now, so I appreciate everybody bearing with me here.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll throw some peanuts at them. So my wife and I went to Kauai, and this is a couple of years ago, and I'm such a bad flyer that I had to read this book called Soar, and it's like written by a pilot and a psychologist about getting rid of your fear of flying. And one of the chapters says you should ask to meet the pilot, because that will help settle your nerves. You tell them you're a nervous flyer, and the pilot will assuage your fears. It will help you put a face to the guy flying the plane. And so I told the flight attendant when I boarded, I was like, hey, I'm a really nervous flyer, and this book says I should ask to meet the pilot. She said, yeah, sure. I'll let you know when he's ready to meet you. And I walked into the cockpit, and this is right before takeoff on the way to Hawaii. And I walked in and I was like, hey, I'm Felix. I just asked to meet you because this book tells me I should meet you. I'm a nervous flyer. And he turns around. He's got sweat all over his face. And he just says to me point blank, he goes, it's not going to be a good flight.
Oh my God.
And I was like, fuck. And I told my wife, like, I think I need to get off this plane. but we made it. We were okay. I didn't do super well, but I took a Xanax for the first time on that flight,
Okay.
and ended up being really messed up, like for the first day of being in Hawaii. So
Oh, that sounds absolutely horrible.
yeah.
And, wow.
Jennifer asks if I'm going to AuthorCon 3. No, but I will. I do think I'm going to be in Chicago for the Books of Horror gathering. So,
Okay, that'd be very cool. We'll be excited about that. So
yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna try to see if and you know what? It's funny. I think I just figured out how to share my. Oh, there we go. I think this will work. I think I figured it out. All right, over here. Oops. There you go. So that's a pretty tiny picture. So let me see if I can biggie size it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's the hardcover. This was made by Harshanan Singh, who is he's a Magic the Gathering artist. If you've ever heard of the card game Magic the Gathering,
yeah.
I hired him because I was having trouble finding an artist who could do faces and also landscapes, and I just had this thing in my head, like there's a giant head coming out of the mountains, and it's wearing some kind of religious regalia, and this is what he came up with. So he's got the mouth is a cave, because caves are so prominent in the Stolen Tongues universe. And we're going to go into the caves this time rather than just talking about them. In Church Beneath the Roots, you get to go way down into the caves. The red star plays a little role in the book too. And this cave looms above the the Cold Valley Indian Reservation, which is on the opposite side of the mountain where the cabin is in Stolen Tongues. And yes, Legends of the Hidden Temple, one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows as a child.
Oh, I love Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll see if I can, or I'll throw the other one on here as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the second screen.
So yeah, that one's Harshanan Singh. He's an artist from India.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And then of course here is the other one. Let's see if I can get this one up here as well. All right. That one. So bear with me a second here, you guys. So, all right. So all right, and here's the second one then.
Okay, yeah, this is the paperback, and this was made by Martín de Diego Sabata from Spain. He's an artist in Spain. He also does Magic the Gathering art, and so the reason I chose this guy was I wanted different art for the paperback and for the hardcover. And I saw this guy's work, and he is a specialist in the style of Giger, H.R. Giger.
Okay, yeah.
For those of you who don't know Giger, he was a Swiss artist who invented the xenomorph alien from the film franchise Aliens. And there's a YouTube video that I think every horror fan should watch. Let me see. Pull it up. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to link this video in the chat. If you have 10 minutes, let's see, can I join the chat here? Oh, I guess I can't do that. Can I send this to you, Rick, on private chat?
Sure. And then I'll see if I can stick it in there.
It's a YouTube video. It's called H.R. Giger, Birth is Death, Art Analysis by Rob Ager. So H.R. Giger, Birth is Death. It's a 12-minute video. Giger's artwork is worth an hour-long discussion in itself. Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. No, I'm a huge fan of his work as well. His biomechanical stuff is just mind-blowing.
His art style is biomechanical, and it's like the fusion of flesh with cold, dead technology. And the story behind how he came up with this and what happened to him is fucking terrifying. This video is one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. So I recommend that.
Well,
Oh,
if Felix Blackwell says it's scary, then that's I can't wait.
yeah. So this guy Martin Sabata, he specializes in that style, and he made me. I just, as soon as I saw his art, I had to have it, and I told him my idea, and he actually painted this. This is an oil painting, and he would stream it live while he was painting it. And he's a very passionate man. He would talk about it, how he reacts emotionally to the art, and it tells him what to do. So I knew I had to have this. But I think one of the readers just mentioned that Sadie says, I'm indigenous. I don't really see the resemblance of regalia. Sadie, that's because I was talking about Christian regalia. So this is it's almost like a Pope hat. And that'll make sense in the book, but it is a reference to native conversion to Christianity, which is a subplot of the Church Beneath the Roots. So it's about like cultural collisions and collisions of religious traditions as missionaries incur upon the indigenous land. Complicated subject, but it'll all make sense at the end.
Yeah, which is another beautiful aspect of this art too, is that it really, much like the story, there's a lot to unfold, a lot to unpack in it too. Just from the expression of the face and again the regalia and everything else, it's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an Italian cathedral there, and what this giant head is, I think, will be revealed at some point in the book.
And how are we doing for time, by the way, Felix? Are we okay for kind of one more question or so before we wrap it up and then give away the third book?
Yeah, I've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay, cool. No, much appreciated. Because one thing I'd love to know as well. So, regarding all the all the work you put into Church Beneath the Roots, I mean, I'm guessing you've probably thought of little else as far creatively over the last 3 years, except just to get this book out there. What happens now for you? Now, are you? It sounds like this prequel was very much at the, I guess, inadvertent request for another book after what the reaction was for Stolen Tongues. Are you waiting to see what reader reaction to this is before you decide what direction you want to go in creatively, or do you already have that kind of mapped out? Or are you just thinking, I just need a break and I don't want to think about writing another word until
you
have to again?
It's a great question. I have kind of a sad answer to that, and that is, I'm not really sure about this yet. I haven't made up my mind, but I might not continue writing after this book. I really struggle with the anxiety of having a reader base. I'm super grateful for them because they've done so much for me materially in my life. It's because of the people in this chat right now and the people in Books of Horror and the reviewers on YouTube that my wife and I were able to purchase our first home. So I don't have a marketing team. Everyone here is my marketing team. I don't have a publisher behind me. I'm one guy. And when I write something, the world takes it, and I don't know what's going to happen to it when it goes out. When In the Devil's Dreams went out, nobody cared about it. When Stolen Tongues went out, everybody cared about it, good or bad. And then Church Beneath the Roots, I don't know what's going to happen with this book, but I do know that, and Gage Greenwood and John Durgan and Sammy Scott and Nick Roberts will attest that I've undergone a huge amount of stress writing this book. It's just, I used to write believing that no one would ever read my stuff, and now I'm writing knowing that tens of thousands of people will read it. And what if they hate it? I emotionally can't handle that thought. And I see a therapist, and I have anxiety issues around other things in my life, not just writing. So on the one hand, I'm really grateful for the success I've had, but I'm also at a point where it's just I kind of want to just not be a writer for a while. So I might go dark for a few years, live life. But I do have 6 or 7 more books already planned out, and I'm never going to write another prequel or sequel again. I've got 2 more books that I think people will love. One of them is a quick page-turning thriller, and one of them is a slower, more broody horror novel like this, Church Beneath the Roots. And the feedback doesn't really govern what I write, except in the case of the Church Beneath the Roots. This is just my answer to my critics. But yeah, I probably should be on some kind of SSRI for anxiety because of how much of my life it disrupts. But I don't want to do that. So I think I might just kind of step into the shadows for a while, you know?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. It's in one sense it's sad because I think the part of us that certainly brought us all together here today is your stories. So I think it's just natural that we would think immediately, you know, no, don't do that. That is so sad. We can't imagine you not writing more stories. But at the same time, like the outpouring of support here, very much similar to what you get in the books of horror, you absolutely have to take care of it yourself. Whether you're stepping into the shadows, doing other things that you love to do, other things that bring you joy, without perhaps the stress of having to be a one-man wrecking ball when it comes to writing and promoting it, and all the other hats you have to wear on top of all of that. I obviously don't have to tell you that has to come first, because that's, those words aren't getting written themselves. Of course, you're the storyteller, so we need you to take care of you, in the hopes that you might find that spark. It doesn't even sound like it's so much a spark really, but just maybe the peace of mind of being able to write, knowing that it's because it's what you want to do, not because you feel maybe forced or obligated to for
And
reactions.
I feel like this community really understands, because I think horror is attractive to people who have had troubles in their lives, and I think horror is a medium through which we explore those troubles and kind of express them in a cathartic way. And I do feel like people will understand my decision. I haven't made it yet, but someday I'll be back. But I think of myself as a musician foremost, and a writer second, and I want to get back to writing music. So, but we'll see. I mean, if this is the biggest novel that comes out this year in the horror genre, maybe I'll be like, okay, well, I've got one more in me. I don't know.
Daddy needs to do, I don't know, set of wheels or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do you mind if I take a minute to issue some thank yous?
No, please go right ahead, Felix. This is your show. I'm just the guy with the microphone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so first of all, I want to thank the other authors that are immediately in my social circle, which are the guys I just named: Gage, Nick, Sammy, and John Durgan. They have been instrumental in getting me across the finish line writing this book. There were a lot of times where Nick Roberts especially had to be like, Felix, shut the fuck up and finish writing your book. Like, stop stressing out. People are going to like this book. He's really been a champion of mine. And they all have. Gage has really helped me understand like the formatting process. Some of the more technical things I'm not very good at. John has said such nice things about, after he read the book, and Sammy has always just been like a really kind and understanding. Sammy Scott is like the nicest he might even be nicer than Gage Greenwood. And all of them they're guys that I can just, we've got a text chat, we text all the time, and I can express my anxiety to them, and they never give me any crap for it. They're really supportive. So I must come off as a pretty sick person to them mentally, but they've been really great friends. I wish that I had known them for longer, because I could have used some friends like that in high school. And then to the readers, to everybody here in this group, and then also books of horror at large, I wouldn't be sitting in the room I'm sitting in today without these readers. And every time they like and share my posts, and every time they buy my books and recommend them to their friends, these are things that I could never dream of doing myself, as a one-man marketing team. And the way that my life has changed materially because of them, and my wife's life as well, the whole floor of our experience of the world has come up because of the, the royalty check that comes in every month like clockwork. And I never ever dreamed that this would happen to me, and I never thought that I had that talent. The world disagreed. These readers told me that I had something that I didn't. They saw something in me that I didn't think I had. And I, as a person who's always been self-conscious and antisocial,
Sure.
it really means more to me than I can say. I'm very moved by the kindness that they've shown me, and extremely grateful. And every single day, my wife and I go on a walk around our neighborhood at night when she gets home from work. And every day we have the same conversation. We're so grateful that we were able to purchase a house in California, and that we have the freedom that we have because of these readers. It's really amazing, and we will never stop being thankful to them for that. So I hope all of you know that. Not to get too sappy, but
No, by all means. I think that's such an amazing statement, and I love the fact that we have the kind of community that we do. Certainly through the books of horror. I like to think that other branches of the horror community as well are very much similar to that, and that we I think one thing I love about the horror community is that it really does often take care of its own. And I think as long as you need us to, we've got your back. It's fantastic to hear as well that your stories help make your dreams come true, while you're helping our dreams to be as disturbed and haunting and resonating as possible. So it's let's not get too sappy here, Felix. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, I really appreciate
you deserve, and like it's been said in here too. I mean, you deserve every penny that you can get out of this, and every fan mail that's positive out of this as well.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I even appreciate the critiques. It helps me grow as a writer. Criticism is important for personal growth. I've been looking into my own Jungian shadow a lot in the past couple of years, and seeing things I don't want to see, and some of the critiques help with that. So I appreciate how the community takes care of each other, and everybody's so positive. So it's great.
Yeah, and on a personal level too, I really want to commend you and thank you as well for being so open about your struggles with anxiety and some of the things that you're doing to take care of yourself. Regardless of all the other things you might have to kind of put on pause, you got to take care of yourself first. Certainly as somebody as well that deals a lot with anxiety, I commend you for that, because I don't think I probably talk about it enough either. And it's anybody that has it to a mild degree, severe degree, somewhere between, or any other type of mental illness, really, it 100% affects everything you do. I think it's just a matter of how often or how much it affects you, and how often that effect has an impact, if that makes any sense. I mean, one of my best friends, one of his closest friends, a few days ago, unfortunately, took his life, and it was such a huge shock for everybody, because he seemed like he was on top of things. He was very successful. He's a fantastic guy. No financial issues, seemed to going, all the rest of it. But meanwhile, there's something going on that he just wasn't talking about. So
I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's dreadful.
So I think it's great that that's sort of the point of that, is that I think it's fantastic that you're talking about that, and you've got your people there, and I think it's the most important is to kind of find your community when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
yeah, the older I get, the more I everybody knows the fact that we all have personal battles and inner demons and things that we are fighting and struggling with that nobody can see into. But as I've gotten older, I really have, the truth of that statement has been borne out to me. And I just try to be like really kind to everybody, and I try to really express gratitude all the time, because you never know, even a very simple kind word can change the course of someone's entire day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really do appreciate all the support. And by the way, thank you for being a beta reader for me, for organizing this chat, and just for advocating for my writing, on your channel and everything. I really appreciate that too. It's fantastic. I'm really grateful for it.
Right. Well, again, thank you as well, Felix. We really appreciate all the time here as well. I'm so grateful that you were here. Honestly, I was thinking that you might not agreed to come onto the chat because I know that this, and I only know a tiny portion of what a huge monumental task it was to get to the point of getting this book out. And I know there's still a little bit of work left to do. So I honestly thought you would tell me to go to hell. Look, I just want to be done with this book.
Yeah.
So I appreciate coming on here and talking about it and giving some amazing insights. So I really hope that we do see you writing again eventually. However your path takes you. I really appreciate that we're all a part of that path. So I think that's pretty good shit. So Amanda, yes, we do need to get out a third winner. Absolutely right. So let's switch gears for a bit before we bid you farewell for now, Felix, because I know you do have to get going and break out of that cabin.
Yeah, thanks.
Trapped in. So let's do it now. Felix, why don't you give it the last hashtag word?
I think imposter.
Imposter. Awesome.
2 O's, no E.
Imposter. Okay, so everybody wants to put in hashtag imposter. We'll let that go through. That's an awesome word.
Oh.
So yeah, thanks so much, Ace. Really appreciate that as well. So, and you guys that all came here as well. Again, really appreciate the support. So.
Yeah. I think Daphne and Silent Evil Cry, you're going to want to redo that with an O instead of an E so that you're included in the spin.
Oh, yes.
There you go. Yeah, you got it. And then Jessica, you're going to want to redo yours too. Sadie, you're going to want to also redo your. I probably should have picked a different word. I'm sorry. Oh, what a mess I've created.
I think we'll be okay with this.
And then Erica might have to redo yours. Oh, imposter. Yeah, I got it. Nick Wood.
Rick, spell it out.
Okay, perfect. So do I have it up on the? Yeah, so we've got it up there. So Becky Burgess, I put your comment on there. So everybody's spelling that proper this time.
Yeah, this is why I don't run a YouTube channel, by the way. I can't make good decisions to save my life. Sorry about that.
I know. Well, it's not too bad when I'm just kind of on this end firing questions back, but then every once in a while I'll have somebody that'll say, so what did you think about this? And what was your perspective on all this? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, put me on the spot here. And I have to think too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fine. I don't mind the pressure of that. So I probably was more stressed out trying to find out how to share your pictures.
Yeah.
I need a team as well. I'm so jealous of all these, YouTube guys. Some of the ones that I watch, there's like a whole team of people, and I mean, somebody drops a pen, and there's somebody there to come and assist them by picking it up for them.
Yeah.
They've got it all covered. Me, I'm just grateful when I don't, and I shouldn't say anything right now, that I don't have my cat jumping in front of me and either give me the business end or sticking its butt at the camera. So
mine is on my lap right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's chilling.
Good. So I'm glad you got some good company there. So let this go just a little bit longer here. And Felix, I know we kind of went over your time a little bit, so thank you very much again.
Yeah, no problem.
So, at least now with you not being sure when you're going to write it, I don't feel so bad for keeping you an extra minute.
Yeah.
In all fairness, though, I do really appreciate that. So
no problem.
Cool. Yeah, I've got a couple of cats as well, and a child. So basically, I don't have any freedom.
Yeah, really big animal person, big animal people here in my family. So we've had rats and cats and all kinds.
They're almost. Have you ever had rats and cats together? Because I've always had rats or cats. Yeah, I've always been afraid of that.
No, never had that. I grew up in Colorado with a couple of horses. I had a stepmom who was really big on horses, so we had 4 horses, and I got thrown off of one and broke my nose. And I remember flying off the horse, and then there's a big question mark, and then I remember waking up in a bathtub with blood everywhere.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, there's my short horror story. So haven't been back up on a horse since then. I think I was like 8 when that happened. But yeah, rats are amazing pets.
Yeah, they are. Nothing beats Carrot. Yes, Carrot was a good pet.
Yeah. Maybe someday a parrot.
Yes. Yeah, they're fantastic animals, but you have to have its own like poop shirt because they're gonna just crap all over you all the time. I highly recommend tie-dye.
Yeah.
or not having a bird crap all over you. All right, cool. So we will do the draw. So I think that all of our imposters are in with an O. All right, so let's do this up here. And you know what? I'm going to see if I can share the screen here. I don't know if I'll be able to do that effectively, but let's try it. All right, let's try that out here. So I'm going to share screen. Let's see here. All right, I think we're in business. Cool, there it is. So now you guys don't have to take my word for it. So let that run its course, and it is slowing down. Lux Hippie Reads, you are the winner.
Nice. Congratulations.
Awesome. Congratulations. Sorry, Nicole, you're about maybe 30 seconds too late. So I apologize for that. So you're gonna have to go and just hopefully you'll still go in and read the book when it does get launched. So,
Yeah.
To Lux or Luke's or Luke's A, perhaps Hippie Reads, congratulations.
Yeah, winners, if you don't mind, if you could communicate with Rick and get him your names and email addresses when the book launches. Hopefully, I'm praying in the next 2 weeks. I will reach out to you personally via email and send you your ebook.
Awesome. So if you guys want to send that out to me here, I'll just put my email in here. I have it connected to my YouTube channel, so if you really wanted to find out what it was, you can find it. So I'll put it here. Or if it's easier for you winners to send me a message on Facebook, that works as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for everything, everybody, for being here, and of course for Felix. Again, I really hope that we haven't seen the last of your writing, but at the very least, despite whatever it is that happens next, I hope that you get nothing but positive feedback from the church beneath the roots. You deserve it, and it's such a fantastic story that I truly hope that it does everything that you needed to do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if it is my last one, I'm very proud of it, but hopefully not. But yeah, thanks everybody. I had a great time chatting with you. Thanks, Rick. Great questions, and I will be making a big important post soon.
Perfect. And where can we follow you moving forward if you do decide to go back to writing, or if you do take a break and you announce your return, or just want to pop in and say, hey guys, it's been a minute, as the kids say, but I just want to let you know I'm still kicking, I'm still here.
Yeah, so I've got that Felix Blackwell Facebook page, of course, the public page, and then www.felixblackwell.com, where you can get signed copies and things like that. And then those will be available soon, by the way, not right now, but in the next 2 weeks. And then I think Books of Horror will always kind of know where I am. So,
I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right.
Great.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.